our series about our pelvis alignment. So we talked a couple of weeks back about checking your pelvis, and remember what we looked at is getting hold of our hip bones, so our ASISs, and seeing how they were aligned. So the anterior pelvic tilt like this, your hip bones would be forward of your pubis bone. So that triangle would have your fingers pointing down between your heels. The posterior pelvic tilt, which was this way, where our pubic bone is ahead of our hip bones. So again, our fingers pointing sort of upwards. Now we did a load of stretches for that last week, so make sure you check out the video section if you find that you do have a posterior pelvic tilt. And next week we'll look at some of the anterior pelvic tilt. But this week I want to talk about a twisted pelvis. So if you put your hands on your hip bones there and you find that one is slightly forward of the other, then that's what you would call a slightly twisted pelvis. Now, I'll give you an example. So I'm going to come up a little closer, so excuse. For me, I can stand with everything nice and tight, but if I don't think about it, I actually let one go back and one come forward. All right, so this is my natural standing position. So you can see this one, this side, so my left side goes back slightly, and that's my right side comes forward. Now why that happens is, if I hold my kid, I hold this way, right? I always slouch this way. I sleep on this side. So if I'm not careful when I sleep, I let my leg roll over. So if I'm lying on my side sleeping and I don't have the pillow between my legs to keep everything aligned, I let this one roll. So everything I do kind of does this motion. Now, this got so bad when I was training for my marathon, before I knew I had diastasis and all of that stuff, so I was doing everything I shouldn't. I was running on the road. Now, if you think about a road, it comes up in the middle and you always run on one side. So I was always running this side lower than the other. And you think about it, you run up one road, you're like this, you go over to the other side and you're still like that. And it got so bad that my whole spine like literally had a huge twist in it. Now, because I was already slightly twisted, that running made it really bad. Now, obviously if it's that bad, you've got to go to a physio or a chiropractor and get everything back to realignment. But if you're like me and you just have this slight twist going on when you don't think about it, I'm going to give you some stretches to help. Because the reason for this twist in general is the quad, one quad, so this quadricep muscle here, is tighter than the other. So you look at it, if you stand there and you squeeze just one, you get that twist going. Even if I squeeze this one, I will twist that way. So it tends to be one quad's tighter than the other, and what that does is it causes one side of your back to be tighter and one side to be weaker. And even within your glutes, one's tighter and one's weaker. So we're going to look at some stretches, and what we're going to do is we're going to do them on both sides, but you will find one side is tighter than the other, and that's the side you should concentrate on more often. So first stretch, we're going to get down onto the ground, and we're going to do what's called a prone hip extension. And you want to do this one on your weaker side. So for me, I twist like this. This side's tighter than this side, so this is my weaker side. So I want to strengthen my right side of my back and my bum, okay? So I'm gonna go down onto the ground, and hopefully you can see enough because I can't tilt the camera. But you're gonna grab a towel because that needs to go under your hips, okay? And we're gonna put that on the ground and we're gonna roll onto it. So make sure you're rolling down onto your side and over. Now, if you're pregnant, this exercise isn't for you. So if you're pregnant, please don't do this one. We're going to roll over. Make sure this is under your hips so that we keep everything in line. Face forward. Bring the leg that is on your weaker side up to a 90 degree, and you're going to lift it up and down, up and down. And you really want to concentrate on squeezing, I'm hoping you guys can still see me, squeezing that glute and that side of the back, because that's what you're strengthening. This one you can do on both sides, but you need to aim for just doing the majority of it on your weak side. So look to do 8 to 10 repetitions, and you want to do that probably 3 to 4 times a week, just to get that strengthening down that one side that's being weak. So the next stretch I want to show you is the Piriformis Stretch. And this is such a great stretch for a lot of different things. And since I'm down on the ground, I'm just going to see if I can move this down a little bit for you. Let's see. Hopefully this might help. So for this stretch, we're going to roll down onto our back. So always remember, onto your side, and then roll over. I'm going to scooch back a little bit. And you want to put one foot on top of the other knee, and then bring it up, okay? And put both hands through that gap and pull that leg gently towards you. You're trying to push this knee out backwards, and we're just stretching that piriformis. This is such a great hip opener and back stretch for you. And then switch it over and pull. And again, you'll find one side's going to be a little bit tighter than the other, and that's the side you want to concentrate on. Now with any of these stretches, you only want to go to the point where you just start to feel that stretch, and then I want you just to hold it until that tightness goes. So that could be from anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. But just really gently. You don't want to pull it tight because you'll do more damage than help if you do that. So just pull it gently till you find that point where you start feeling it, and then just hold that point until it starts to release and relax. And then move to the other side. And the side that's tighter will take longer to release. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is for your back. So you're going to come back into like this child's pose position, and then I want you to bring your arms to one side and just stretch out your back. Let your head relax, and then move it to the other side. And you should feel a really good stretch down the side of your back. Now you remember what I said about your pelvic, if you've got that tilt, one side's going to be tight and one side's going to be loose. So that tight side, when you stretch to the opposite side, is going to feel that stretch much sooner than the looser side. So that first exercise was to tighten and strengthen that side, and this exercise is to lengthen and loosen the other side to try and even things up a bit. Okay, the other stretches I want to show you is a quad stretch. So there are plenty of quad stretches out there. I'm just going to grab a chair, hold on. The best one, if you can do it with your knees, is to go into a lunge position like this. So 90, 90. Make sure that you have got your pelvis in alignment as much as possible. And then if you can, lift up your back leg and bring it in, pulling your pelvis forward slightly. Now this is actually very hard on your knees, so putting a mat underneath or a towel underneath your knees is a good idea. If you can't do that one, I like this one because it hits your hip flexor as well as your quad and really, really loosens that up, which is what we need for the uneven pelvis. But if that one's too hard for you, standing, a lying down one actually works really well as well. So lying down and pulling one back. I like this because you can maintain everything being neutral. or standing, so your general normal quad stretch works as well. But anything that you can get to that allows you to stretch out that quad. So remember which quad's going to be tight. If your pelvis is tilted this way, this is your tight quad. If your pelvis is tilted this way, this one's your tight quad. But you will know as soon as you start doing it, you'll be like, oh, this one's really tight. Oh, this one's not so bad. So work on the tight one, because it's all, this pelvic rotation is all the muscles being unbalanced from our day-to-day activities. Like we use, if we're at a computer all day, we use our mouse on one side, right? So you have a tendency to lean. You're holding your children all day. You have a tendency to put them on your hip and twist. We always sleep on one side. We always compensate a little bit for everything we do, and doing it over and over and over again is what causes this muscle imbalance. So stretching and strengthening is what we're looking to do. That's the main ones that I wanted to show you today. I'm going to give you a couple more a bit later, just because a lot of the ones that we do for our other issues like the posterior pelvic tilt and the anterior also help out. But let me just go through those. We had the prone hip extension, so lying on our belly with our leg up and lifting it up and down. So that one was to strengthen the weaker side of your body. We had the Piriformis Stretch, so that was the one on the back where you were bringing it up to open and stretch out this muscle here. We have the quad stretches, so whether you can do it in the lunge to get that extra hip flexor stretch as well as the quad stretch. An ideal way of doing that is putting your back leg up against the wall and then holding a chair or something to get yourself into that position. That works out really well if you can maneuver yourself into that position, or any other quad stretch is fine. And then we had the back stretch, which was back in our child's pose and moving around on either side. Again, just hold them until you release. You'll feel it. It will be tight, tight, tight. Ah, that feels good. That point, that's when you can stop. Don't push it too hard. And just keep notice of what you're doing every day. If you hold your child always on one hip, switch them over. So you're holding them on the other side. If you always sleep on one side, try rolling over and at least starting on the other side as much as possible. Keep having an idea for your pelvis. Where is it? Check, grab your hip bones and just check, am I in line? Is one behind the other? And pull yourself in, because the more that you can do it, that you rebalance yourself, the better it's going to be, especially once you're starting to do any exercise, any cardio work. If you're unbalanced, you're going and you do a repetitive movement, whether it be running or any other cardio that you might want to do, it's going to make it worse. So a small issue will be worse if you do it repeatedly through something like running. So keep your stretches going, strengthen out the weak side, lengthen out the tight side, and let's see how you go. Comment below if you have any questions and I'll get back to you. Okay, see ya.